Today I'll be taking a look at Dynamite's Ducktales number 4, written by Brandon Montclair and art by Tommaso Ronda, with the main cover being done by Ivan Bigarella. So far, the Ducktales comic has been pretty darn good, and I've enjoyed each issue, so let's hope that this issue can continue on the forward momentum. We pick up where the last issue left off with Uncle Scrooge, Huey, Dewey, and Louie at the Duckburg Public Library, and right away we get some references. One of the books saying "Here in Duckburg," which is a lyric from the theme song, as well as also another book that says "Rewriting History," which is also a lyric from the theme song. This is also where we get the title for this issue, Ducktales, starring Uncle Scrooge with Huey, Dewey, and Louie, Four Corners of Your World, Part 4, Checkout. As we see Huey, Dewey, and Louie being frustrated, saying how this search is like a wild goose chase, as they use a ladder to look through various books. As Scrooge reminds them why they're there, which is to find a clue to the greatest treasure in Duckburg. Huey, Dewey, and Louie end up falling on top of Scrooge, which is where we're introduced to the librarian, Mrs. Bookbeak, who's like your typical portrayal of a librarian, an elderly woman with glasses who's always telling everybody to shush. Once Mrs. Bookbeak turns her back, then Scrooge, Huey, Dewey, and Louie set off into the library to continue searching for the clue to the next piece of the puzzle. We get a full-page panel, which has a number of references in it. Fenton Crackshell can be seen, Gyro, Gearloose, and Lil Bulb can be seen, as well as also Doofus Drake can also be seen. And as they're walking through the library, Scrooge accidentally bumps into Launchpad McQuack, who's drawn much closer to his original DuckTales design, as opposed to most other portrayals typically draw him like how he was in Darkwing Duck. But here he has a much thinner frame, which makes me happy to see, since the original DuckTales version of Launchpad is my favorite version of Launchpad. And while he may be socially awkward and a little clumsy, he's not an idiot or a buffoon like how he would be portrayed in Darkwing Duck and a number of other adaptations. And Scrooge ends up spinning Launchpad and throwing him into the librarian. And with the commotion, Scrooge takes off with Huey, Dewey, and Louie to continue searching for the clue. And now is where we get the first flashback story, where this time, instead of doing it in the old Carl Burke style, this time it's done in a style closer to the original series, since Launchpad McQuack was created for the original DuckTales. And this story is called Uncle Scrooge and Mayday Mayday, where we see Launchpad and Scrooge have crashed into a jungle and make their way to a cave where there's a trap that's a bunch of runes on the floor, very similar to a trap in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. As Scrooge is trying to navigate through the trap, Launchpad bumps into him, and they end up setting off the trap and get launched into the air, as we get a to be continued. And now we're back to the present in a 2-page spread, as we see Scrooge, Huey, Dewey, and Louie walking through the massive library. And as they continue looking for the next clue, they end up discovering that Mrs. Bookbeak is nearby and can hear them, as she tells them to shush. Scrooge pulls out the map of Duckburg, unfold it, and take another look at it, as Scrooge explains that the treasure is not in the library, but there's another map that will lead them to the next clue. And as they wait for Mrs. Bookbeak to move to a different room so they can get the map, Scrooge continues the flashback story as we get the part 2 of Mayday Mayday, as Launchpad and Scrooge end up landing in a spike trap. But luckily the only thing that was damaged was their hats. And this time, they safely cross the rune-covered floor, as well as also go through a trap with a bunch of runes with bongos on the wall, as well as also they swing across a spike trap from vines hanging from the ceiling, which is very video game-esque, where they arrive at 2 stone protruding from the ground, and each one has a rune on it. Launchpad instinctively goes up and touches one, only to get tackled by Scrooge, and as Scrooge is berating Launchpad, a huge blade comes down from the ceiling and cuts Scrooge's hat in half. The story ends with Launchpad making a joke about it being a good thing that Scrooge brought him along, since he is an expert in crashing. And we flash back to the present again, and Scrooge and the boys use the books as kind of like a wave and surf down them, only to crash land at Mrs. Bookbeak's feet. That she knew where the map they were looking for was the whole time, and she would have showed them if they would have asked. And so they're able to take a look at the map they got from the library and find the next clue to the next location. This is where we get a tease for the upcoming issue, which will round off this little storyline, which will be called The More Things Stay the Same, as well as teasing the next storyline, which will include Gizmo Duck and Bubba Duck, and will probably involve time travel. And that's the issue. I'd say that issue 4 continues the hot streak that DuckTales has been on. I am thoroughly enjoying this series, and hopefully it continues on this trajectory, because this is good stuff. Continues to be pretty darn good, with some nice expressions and some good posing, as well as also playing with perspective a little bit, and play with panel layout. We also get a little experimentation with how certain scenes are lit as well. I was also very happy to see that when they brought Launchpad in, they went with his original design from the original series. He talks just like how he did in the original show as well. I could hear Terry McGovern's voice as Launchpad was talking, which is pretty darn good. I was also very impressed with the flashback scenes where it was done in the style of the original series, which is a level of detail that's been missing from a lot of Dynamite's other Disney Afternoon comics. There are enough references that it'll make you pause to look at the panels closely, but not so many that it turns into I Spy or something like that. My one main complaint that I had from the previous issues was that Scrooge wasn't really using a lot of his Scottish turns of phrase that he used a lot in the original show. They have actually, seems like they have addressed that in this issue by having him use more of his Scottish turns of phrase. Still no bless me bagpipes or darn me argyles, but we're getting there. In conclusion, this is a really good comic that I highly recommend. That continues on from the previous issue, but still feels like it has a nice beginning, middle, and an end. And if the next issue can stick the landing, I would definitely be interested in picking up the trade. Till next time, see ya.